Greetings everybody, Tom Matuska here with Matuska Taxidermy Supply Company live Thursday afternoon. I'm here with Brett Wingfield, and today we're going to talk about reproduction fish. Last week, I think last couple of weeks we probably covered turkeys a little bit, and we did a turkey breast mount. You can go back and view that. We did a turkey tail mount with Tattletailer, a new product that we have, and it sure makes symmetry on your turkey tails easy. No more measuring, no more, figuring out which feathers should be, where. The Tattletailer has a grid on it, and it's got really nice numbers. You can pick out what feather you're on and look across and match them up, and it makes symmetry very easy. It's a tool that you can use over and over and over again. You should never have to have a second Tattletailer unless you've got a big shop and doing lots of turkey tails like this. But we just roll it up, put it on the shelf, and every time we have a strutting turkey to do, or a turkey tail mount especially, we get out the Tattletailer, lay it on the table, and spread our turkey tail and bond it. It's a new product that we got, and we just think it's going to fit right into the supply company. It's a nice piece of equipment to have in the shop. Yeah.
Dave Rogers says, "Hey all," and Wes Becker's checking in.
Thank you, Dave. And welcome to all you guys that follow us. This will probably be an announcement throughout the afternoon, but this is going to be our last live broadcast on Thursday afternoon.
Until
now,
November.
You can hear everybody going, no, your camera's just shaking.
Until November.
No, we're going to regroup. We've got to get some new information. We're going to have a lot of guest stars coming up, and we're going to start in November. Is it November 20th? Maybe something.
I don't know if we have an exact date. Somewhere in the
We'll
mid-November.
be starting again, but we're going to take a break and try to regroup. We've kind of exhausted so many topics, and looking back at them, we think we can do a lot of these topics better. And so we're going to be revisiting some. If there are things that you want us to do that you hope that we would cover and haven't, let us know, and we'll take those into consideration. And plus, like we said, we're going to have some people that are in the forefront of the industry, some real experts that are going to come and join us for live and kind of soup up our live broadcasts a little bit better.
A new and improved quality, everything about it. So it should be very exciting. Season 2.
New camera system.
Yeah, everything.
New audio system, because you guys say you can't hear us sometimes. So anyway, it's all going to be new and improved, but for us to get there, it's going to take us a few weeks to get there.
In the meantime, we'll be building a new catalog.
New catalog's coming out soon.
And we will have short videos throughout the week.
Sure.
That we will still post, so a lot of informational ones there. Looks like we have Kevin Yates that says, "Good morning from Australia. He loves Friday mornings with us."
Friday morning.
That's like, I can't remember how I did it. When I went to Australia, I came back and I got here before I left. Somehow that works out. So you kind of can go back in time or into the future. It's pretty interesting. Now I know how that Dorian or whatever that car was that did that.
But we will still be doing a giveaway this week as well, so make sure to share this video, like, and comment in the comment section after you have shared, so you can still be entered for the giveaway that we will be doing.
And let us know if you're watching and if you like what we're doing, and if you have any questions, text them in, and we'll try to answer as much as we can. Questions kind of help us, keep the flow of things going, and they always say the only dumb question is the one nobody asks, you're afraid to ask, and some of these, your name goes with your question too, so people are going to know, oh man, but they were afraid to ask it, so don't be afraid to ask questions. Today is Reproductions, and I remember years ago, we did a reproduction a year, and when you do a reproduction a year, they were very difficult, because when you did them and got them to look like a fish, a year later when you got another one, you didn't remember what you did. And I thought my memory was pretty good, but when it came to how I did things, I didn't remember. why would you do a reproduction?
There's a lot of opportunities for reproductions. You can do a reproduction, of course, of a fish that has been released. Most common, people will come in with a photograph of a fish that they caught and released and ask if they can have a mount done for it. But there's several other scenarios too. You can do a reproduction of a fish that, even if they bring you a fish, you do a reproduction of a fish that might not hold scales very well. What other things?
Catfish. Yeah, catfish, bullhead, seal pout.
Yep.
Those type of fish I have mounted in my early days, skin mount catfish.
Oh my
And
gosh.
it didn't take too long for me to realize that that wasn't a good idea. I mean, I got them done, got them mounted. A little bit of, pliacre is what we used back in those days, instead of epoxy skull.
Yeah.
But those type of smooth skin fish that don't have scales is the way to do it. I think we did, at one time, they've probably all been broken now, but we did all of the state record catfish. We did the state record flathead, we did the state record blue, and we did the state record channel. We did a bull cat, which nobody had ever seen.
Yeah.
We've done some pallid sturgeon that were very rare, and different fish like that.
Yep.
And in the old days, we used to make them out of plaster, heavy plaster molds. We would make, if you had a 80-pound catfish, and make a mold, now you were here for a lot of it, and make a mold out of plaster, that mold together probably weighed 150 pounds.
Yeah. I mean, some big heavy
You know,
ones.
so we would make the fish, we would lay the half of the mold on the table, and we would make half the fish out of fiberglass, then we'd lay the other half on the table, make the other half, and put it together like a model car.
Yeah.
It's gotten a little bit easier with new products and things like that. So there's a lot of different routes to go when you do fiberglass reproductions. You can buy a fish blank, like that is Envision steel head, and extremely lightweight. That is nothing more than a gel coat and maybe a layer and a half of fiberglass. Now you can get these reproductions when you order them, and what you do when you order them, you go to the company's catalog, supply company's catalog, and usually they will give you, your customer will give you a length and a circumference.
Yep.
And
That would be the greatest.
Yeah.
Greatest circumference.
I had a fellow one time come in with a largemouth bass measurements that his son had caught, and we had done the state record largemouth bass, and it was, I don't know, 10 pounds, 12 ounces or something in that neighborhood. And so we had no weight of this reproduction because the kid let it go. And the dad comes in and he said this fish was, 24 inches long, and gave me the circumference. And I go to the catalog, and that's a 18-pound largemouth bass. You're breaking the state record by 8 pounds. And so I called the father and I said, "Are you sure that fish was that big that your son caught? We could get that. We can order a blank that big." And he said, "I don't know. He measured it with his shoe." So there's a lot of room for error and things like that. And then you get the customer sometimes that comes in and they say, "I caught a fish this big and this circumference," and maybe they did. But it's a good chance to
I remember.
embellish a little bit.
I remember at Tarpon.
Yep.
It was.
So you can order reproductions. You can make them yourself. We're not going to delve into making them yourself today, but this is a smallmouth bass mold that we made. We made it in the last class, I think. 3-pound, 10-ounce smallmouth bass. And from this, they're a lot of work, but once you have something like this, you can make many dozen of these, of the positives. So that's an example of what our molds look like if we make a hard cast mold. But our goal and what we want to produce is we want to produce something that looks like a real fish. We don't want it to look plastic. We want it to look, real. This is largemouth bass. This is Lake Country, I believe.
Yep.
Brett painted it, and that's just a nice looking trophy. Really, really nice looking trophy. And I don't think you could tell that from our skin mounts that we produce. They're pretty comparable, except this is completely artificial, and you know, the skin mount, of course, will have the skin on it. A lot of people are getting into what's called hybrids. Tell them what a hybrid is.
Oh my gosh. So hybrid fish are just a combination.
That doesn't mean
of
wipers,
two-
does it?
Well, it kind of does.
Kinda, yeah.
Combination of two fish that generally don't intermix.
Yeah.
So you've got all those hybrid bluegill or different.
But what about a hybrid mount?
Oh,
Yeah, there you go.
that's what you're talking about. So are you meaning like a skin
Yeah.
with all the artificial
Yeah.
parts on it?
Yeah.
Oh.
And why
see.
would you do that?
Well, you've got all of the advantages of the artificial head, no shrinkage, hopefully a nice pleasing pose, no shrinkage to your fins. Fins are nice and even edged, and you can replace those with replace the originals and not have to do all the epoxy and finish work.
So what we're seeing a lot, you have to judge it, is a lot of people now are taking the skin, either casting, molding and casting a fresh head, so there's no shrinkage, putting that on the artificial mannequin, foam mannequin, and, I'm combining the species here, and artificial fins that they either make or buy. So you have the real skin, an artificial head, and artificial fins. You know, so, and some people just use artificial fins, some people use the heads, some
Yep.
people use both. So there's a lot of different things people are doing. I always tell the story that the first sailfish that I ever got into repair was an artificial head, the real skin only from the dorsal to mid-belly,
Oh.
and fins made out of cardboard and epoxies and stuff like that. And that would have been 35 years ago. Done in Mexico. The Mexican people were taxidermists down there, were doing what it took us 35 years to come up and start doing ourselves. I just think that's kind of fascinating because people think,
We're on the cutting edge.
people think they're pretty crafty right now. This is an example of when you order your fiberglass reproduction. This is one that we picked up at a show. It was from Waters by Klaus. And nice small little walleye, not a big walleye, not a trophy fish, but it's going to be a real nice little mount. We thought we'd do it for the showroom because not everybody, when you put things in your showroom, somebody told me one time, don't put 170 class deer, don't put 10-pound walleyes, don't put 20-pound pike because you're going to intimidate your customers. And I thought, watch me, I'm going to fill up my showroom with the biggest of the big. It does intimidate your customers. They'll come in with a walleye like this that their son just caught, and they look up at that 10-pounder on the wall and they go, oh, maybe we won't have it done. So anyway, this would be a really nice, attractive mount. Customer will come in and say, wow, they don't have to be 10 pounds to look really, really nice. But, so you can get your reproductions once you decide on the size. You can go to the catalog of the supply company that you want to purchase your reproduction from, line up the length, the girth. Sometimes they'll give you a weight. When it's the salmon and the trout, they're probably going to give you a male or a female configuration because the head will be a little bit different. Sometimes with the trout, you can cross species a little bit. It might take a little fin trimming and things like that, but sometimes they might not have everything you want. And like for instance, that Envision blank on the end, notice the seam, there's a seam on it. And the taxidermist, though it's been trimmed down, the taxidermist is going to have to fix that seam or it's going to show. And if it shows, it's going to look like a fake fish. And we don't want, like, this is this largemouth, you're not going to find a seam on this fish. We make sure, oops, got broken fins with no seam. We make sure that there's no seam to show, or you can get them completely put together. A lot of the supply companies offer ready to paint fish, and or this one came in and unassembled. And when you get them unassembled, you're probably going to get a body, you're going to get a head that matches, you're gonna get the fin set, and you're gonna get a set of gills.
Yep.
So the first thing we need to do at some point, we're gonna need to attach the head. And I'll give you an idea of how we do that. First of all, you wanna make your head fit very, very well. And this one was a little narrow, so we heated it up with a heat gun and spread it a little bit, pushed it on, so it went into place. You're gonna need to put fins on, and you're gonna need to somehow make it so that he can be hung on the wall or on a stand. This is a largemouth, and for a connecting point for him, we use threaded rod. And just ready rod, it's bent in an L, so it goes against the other side of the fish. There's a hole drilled in the back, and depends on what you get. I noticed this one doesn't have a board in. Some of them, they'll put boards in if you ask them. I know that Envision fish, I think, has a board that you could either screw to or connect to or put some kind of connector on. We use a lot of heavy wire. We like wire because you can bend them. I took a nice walleye back for the girls to take pictures of, and you can really change the attitude of the fish if you can angle him down like that. And with wires you can do that. You do it with a threaded rod too. You can angle him up. I mean, look at how that completely changes the demeanor of the fish. Or you can leave him straight. I'm loosening up. So some kind of connector rather than, you know, screwed to a piece of wood that can't be changed. The walleye that I took back for photos, I had to take a picture of a kind of a fighting up pose, a going down pose like this, and a straight one. And the customer can do it himself because it's a wire, and it's a heavy wire. Just make sure that your wire isn't light enough that it bounces.
And attached good on the inside, you'll show them how to do that one.
I can do that. That's what I think I'll do first is, with this fish, I took a spade bit and I drilled a hole in here on the back side, make sure it's the back side. And then I took, this is a heavy wire, is this 6? I'm at 6 gauge, and I bent it in an L, and I'm going to make sure it lays against the body so that wire is laying right up in here. And then you can do all kinds of things. This fish is made of resin. Some of them are made of fiberglass. The Envision fish in the end is fiberglass, and it's extremely lightweight. You get a New Wave fish plank from Mike Kirkhart. It's going to be made like that, and those big giant sailfish and tarpon and sharks you can lift with one hand. They're very lightweight. These are already considerably heavier. Lake countries, they're made of resins and they're kind of heavy. The starfish made of resins, they're already a little heavy. So I don't want to put a whole lot of auto body putty in there because it's going to make him heavy. So I like to use foam, and I'm going to let my foam start to thicken a little bit. I'm going to pour foam down in here. I'm going to pour it down into the tail. Make sure that there's no openings in the manufacturing, so your foam's going to start dripping out. I'm going to take foam, pour it down in there. When I think it's starting to rise, I'm going to put that wire in there and I'm going to hold it. And once that foam is secure and hardens, this should be pretty sturdy. Then we'll take a little fix-it scope and we will pack it down in that hole, and we'll fix this part of the fish, and he's going to look just like that when we're done. So I will do that process, and I've already,
You know, the nice thing about this part is these fish are like building a model car. If there's anybody that's done any model cars or model airplanes when they were kids, it's just gluing together plastic pieces. And they can be, a reproduction fish isn't regulated by any governing board. You can buy them and sell them. And,
this is the wrong thing to do. No, there's not a right or wrong.
You can, and and you can sell these. There's no Fish and Game rules about selling reproduction fish.
Sure.
They're just plastic and makes them kind of nice.
In Iowa, we can't sell fish, and people come in all the time and they say, well, how can you sell that? It's plastic. It's completely plastic.
Yeah.
This is not a new product for us here in the shop, but we haven't offered it in the supply company before. This is our 10-pound density habitat foam, and it's a great product if you need strength. This foam is the foam that we made the rocks out of, that we drove over. Our habitat rocks, if you've never tried them, are very lightweight, extremely strong. And you can look back in our archives. I took one of these and I bet Mandy a steak supper that I could drive over it and not hurt it. And I drove over it and it didn't even scratch the paint on it. But that's our habitat foam. It's very, very strong. It will hold screws, wires, anything. And we've never offered it for sale before, but I think it's for sale now. I think we have it it will be in the new catalog. If you need it, I think it's in stock, and you can get it by the quarter gallon or whatever you want. Now, it's 10-pound density, so it's not much different than pine when it's hardened up. It's really, really sturdy. Use it just like any foam. I'm just gonna dump A and B together.
Equal parts.
Equal
by
parts.
weight. And this doesn't foam as much though, does it?
No, the heavier density foam, it's not gonna foam as much, so you're not gonna get the rise, but you will get the strength.
Hopefully it doesn't blow your fish apart.
I've done that.
I know, I think I've seen that happen.
We made a beautiful rainbow trout from the real rainbow trout. It was a student, and we needed, now this has foam in it. When they made it, they reinforced it with foam.
Yep.
So it's already got foam in it. So,
And is this the only type of foam that they can use?
yeah, you could use the outlet foam, the insulation foam. If I were filling the fish, I'd be really careful filling the fish. This is gonna be the best foam to put my hanger in. But the old rainbow trout, I had the student holding the rainbow trout, and he poured a little foam in, and I said, a little more. I poured a little more in. I said, yeah, a little more. And I saw that fish start to swell sideways, and he's holding it between his legs, and all of a sudden it went boom. Now I'm gonna pour a little bit in here now.
So that hole goes clear through to the back, or the front side. It's in the back.
Now this is where, little more. Be careful, you can always do it again. And now, I'm gonna see if I can pour a little now. That's gonna be about it. Now, with a little luck, I got plenty where that
You can
wire
see the
is.
foam rising. For you guys that aren't quite as familiar with the foam, that's what happens there. It's going to rise in that cup, and in 5 minutes it'll be pretty firm.
Yeah, I was watching earlier. 7 minutes, I think it's probably going to be. I'm probably going to have to hold it for 7 minutes. But you could also use auto body putty. We've done that. Sometimes I tack it with auto body putty and then pour foam down on top of it, so I don't have to hold everything. That works good. While I'm waiting on this, and it may never set, that's how these things go for live. While I'm waiting on this, why don't you explain that to them, because that's kind of a ingenious method, and you've used it on your competition fish extensively.
Yeah, quite a few. This is just another method of attachment. The nice thing about this, and you've done this plenty of times too. Anytime we want to be able to take the fish on and off of our habitat attachment, especially with a competition fish when we're gonna expect to have him on and off the base several times, it's really nice to use a small but sturdy attachment. I think in judging fish, the very first thing I do to them is walk up and see how structurally stable they are. You don't want to have a great big point of attachment, but it needs to be sturdy, and we found that this, what is this, quarter? No, not even quarter. Smaller than a 1/4 inch rod, just maybe a little bit over 1/8, but it's square. It's 3/16. It's square, and so the nice thing about square, in the case of this largemouth he's on with a round threaded rod, and you see he moves, he'll adjust, he can move around that circle, but with a square rod, it won't turn, it won't move, so that's the advantage of square stock. And we've found a nice brass sleeve, so in this case, oftentimes we'll put the male portion into the habitat, we'll put the female portion into the fish, and you've got a nice tight, that does not move at all, but it slides on, you're able to take the fish off and on during the process. So we've got, this is one, these actually aren't fitted, but similar to this, so we can take the fish on and off, like that.
And that's kind of nice for taking them off to work on fins or
Oh yeah.
paint or anything. You don't have a
Yep.
big wire sticking out of him.
Yep, you don't have to deal with a post or anything like that. So lots of creative attachments, and as you're, we kind of open the door to the competition conversation, but even with your customer work, sometimes we've got a great big muskie on the back wall that has a square stock attachment, and it just makes it much easier for the individual to carry the fish in and out of the house, to hang the mount on the wall, and then he can slide the fish on.
And a bigger version of that would be those, what are they called, pedestal rods?
Yeah,
It's an epoxy square rod that goes up into an aluminum sleeve.
Yep.
And we use those on our big fish a lot. That works
Yep.
really well.
And they work very good. So lots of ways. This is a great way for your commercial fish. You can do this with your competition fish too. You're going to have to do something to hide that wire, but be creative with your attachments, and you'll have lots of success with some of these different options. We'll use square stock. Gosh, every competition fish I think I've ever done, I've done with something like this.
I think we did round one time.
We did. Two round, and that fish is going to fall off.
It's going to fall off, man.
Someday, but it hasn't.
We got it judged at the World Show, and we went back to look at it, and it was about 2 inches off of the leaf.
It's about ready to fall.
Now this is still very rubbery, but you can touch it, and that will get as hard as a rock.
So you called this 10-pound foam. Why do they call it 10-pound foam?
I think, and I might be wrong, but I think 1 cubic foot should weigh about 10 pounds. Whereas the foam that you get for insulation, the great stuff and that type of thing, I think that's about 1/2 pound or less. So if you had a cubic block of that, it would be 1/2 pound weight.
And what's our mannequin foam that we make that they're familiar with, all of our
Basically 3, and there's always a range. They'll say 2.6 to 3.2, but 3. So a cubic foot of that would weigh about 3 pounds. And then if it's under pressure, that makes a difference. But basically, I think free rise, it'd be 3 pounds.
So if the mannequin is 3 pounds, 3-pound density, they can kind of derive that this 10-pound density foam is going to be that much stronger than what they get in regular forms. And pretty handy, like you say, we use it in the shop quite a bit for different applications where we need structure, something that is going to hold some weight.
Now I'm going to add just a little bit more.
So now that we've got a rod going in this fish, we can talk about getting it up on a stand. And we showed you the bass. We showed it to you on these little 2x4s or 2x2s. That's a great way to work with these fish that have a rod in them. And we're gonna need to get it up because our next step is gonna be putting the head on and putting the fins
right
on,
here, and we're gonna give you
start
a little bit more.
building that model car that we talked about earlier. So, nice thing with a fish like this, you can see all the fins are off, and one of the advantages of that is that you can keep the fins separate and paint the fins off of the fish, which is really handy. This happens to be a little set of bluegill fins that have a really nice base on them. You can see they were heated. They've got some really cool shape. And we can deal with these fins individually rather than on the mannequin, so that's kind of nice. I would say, I think common practice is to attach your centerline fins, which would be the dorsal, the caudal or tail,
And sometimes they come that way
and
too,
the
don't
anal
they?
fin. Yep. A lot of times they do come that way. But you can leave the paired fins off, the pelvics and the pectoral fins. You can leave those off, paint them completely separate, paint the fish, so now you wouldn't have to worry about painting in behind these fins, on the back side of them and then on the body. And then you can just have a nice hairline little seam to fix later on.
And then you notice all those fins have a little action or curve
Yep.
to them. When you get them, they're gonna be pancake flat right out of the mold, you know, straight. And that's fine. You can make a fine looking reproduction fish with fins like that. But you can also heat them up with a hair dryer, depends on the plastic. Heat them up with a hair dryer or a heat gun, don't burn them, and then curve them the way you want. Sometimes we'll curve them and we'll put them between screen and paper clip them, so because they'll go back to their original shape if left on their own. But it's really fun to do kind of action. Just think about what that fish is doing and what that fin is doing, and compare it to rowing a boat. If you're, you know, stopping, you know, what are you doing? You're pushing your oars forward. If you're, you know, going the other way, you're pulling them. Or if you're turning, which fin is doing what? It's really, really fun. Or if, whoops, not paying attention, am I? Scratch that one. See how we're doing here. But if you're want to really see what fish do a photograph or take your iPhone and do a video in an aquarium, and then stop it every so often and compare that pelvic to that pelvic, compare the dorsal to the anal, compare his pectorals and stuff.
And about how long should they heat the fins for?
Carded? Till they're good and cool.
They'll heat them up till it's warm.
Nice and
Just
pliable?
Nice, pliable, warm. Don't overheat them; they'll melt. And then they can immediately cool them.
And I usually like to do that before I paint them, just so I don't cook my paint off. But I don't think that would be a problem.
And paint's not flexible, so if you paint them and they're flat, and then you go to put attitude in them or give them some curvature, you risk cracking your paint. Just depending upon what you're painting with and what your primers were and your paint adhesion in general. I would certainly suggest tosing those fins before you start painting. And that kind of brings you another example too. In a fish like this, if we were to, sometimes your customer is going to provide a photo that you're not going to be able to exactly replicate based on one fish that you see in the catalog or one offering from a blank. But in some cases, if you had a great girth and a great shape and attitude to the fish that you wanted, but it was a ½ inch short, one of the options might be to use a larger tail. You could get to that same measurement by just going up a tail size.
That's like the people in Spirit Lake carry scissors to trim them so they're not in the slot.
Another example, so swapping fin sets is something that we'll do now and then. You can put a bigger tail on. You can put, sometimes those brown trout get great big fins, and that would be an example of you might not be able to find the blank that you got. Might have had too small fins, but you can order larger. This would be another example if we were only able to order a male, this being a little male steelhead, but if you needed a female, we could go downstairs. We've got some great fish heads from Gary Bruck, and
Really nice ones.
pick this out and I think it would make a really good replacement if we needed to make this a female. We happen to have 2 of these exact blanks, and it might be something that we wanted to do, display a male and a female. We could put this head on. We would just take
And you
this
could
simply
trim
cut that
those
off.
jaws and grind those jaws and
Yep.
reshape them and epoxy sculpt them.
Yep.
But a new head would be way easy.
Yep. So you have a lot of options. You're not necessarily stuck with what you order. It's just how many alterations do you want to make, how many fix-its and changes. You can change fin attitudes, like you said, just by heating them up. You can cut jaws. So lots of little alterations that you can make to customize that.
And we got 2 of those, 2 of the same fish, and they both came with broken fins, I think.
Yeah, one
So they'll need fixing. This, I can look down. The nice part is I can look down the inside and see what my foam did, and it's encased this rod really good, so it's starting to firm up really well. And it doesn't matter if I put the rod in first or the head in first or whatever, but at some point it's time to do the head. And now these heads have a lot of contact. They contact the whole cleithrum bone area here. They contact up in here. So you could 5-minute epoxy that on if you wanted to. You could auto body putty it on, and it's probably going to be good and safe. You're not going to have, any kind of a issue with it coming off. I like to do a little bit extra just so I don't want to bump my head and have the head crack off.
Yeah.
So I took a drill bit and I drilled a hole up in here in the top of the head. Don't come through into your mouth. And I took threaded ready rod that's going to fit into my head like so. Then, now this is extra, it's not necessary, you can probably get by without. I just know I have done it myself. I bumped the head after it's done and broke it right across here. Then I took my drill bit and I drilled it down into there. Now this fish was hollow, so I took some more of my 10-pound density foam and I poured it right in here, and I put a piece of clay up in there, and I filled this portion with heavy foam so that this can go into here, and I can auto body putty it on. This can go up into here, and I can set that head while it sets. Should we do that?
Yeah.
Okay, now, because I'm going to be in contact with this slick surface and that slick surface, I'm going to rough it up just so my auto body putty has something to grip to. Don't come all the way down here, it might show. So I'm just going to scratch it up. You can use sandpaper. This is our form rougher. We use it on everything.
And it's worth noting too, because these fish come out of a mold, oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes there's a mold release on them.
Good point.
So you're going to want to get this. This will help take care of that. If there were any mold release that would inhibit the bond between the 2 parts, the Tom's using the stout rougher and that, or the form rougher, that takes care of that portion. And then you want to make sure and do the same thing to the inside of the
Yeah,
head.
I can't get that rougher in here, but I'll just scratch this up a little bit.
And you can take a little, for safety's sake, you can take a little lacquer thinner or a solvent of some sort. You can,
And that's a very
Wipe
good
the
point.
rag.
Most of these plastic products are made with some kind of a mold release. And if it got it out of a mold nice and easy, it might keep it from sticking.
yeah, it might keep your paint from sticking in. And this would be a good example of that. This mold is ready to pour, and you've got a coat of PVA on that, polyvinyl alcohol, which is that green cast. So this was blue Bondo, but you can see in some of these low spots there's a little bit of a green cast, and that is a mold release. So when we take this fish out of the mold, we'll have to make sure that that mold release is completely gone.
Okay, I've taken auto body putty, and auto body putty can be kind of thick, like peanut butter. I wanted it thinner so it would go down in my holes a little bit better, and so I added just a few drops, maybe 1/4 of a teaspoon of polyester polyester resin, which is the glass portion of fiberglass. Now I'm going to hardener.
Bob Phillips says, great video.
The Bob Phillips I know?
I don't know.
Oh my goodness.
That's a voice from the past.
That would be.
And while we are taking our 2-month break, you can go to our YouTube channel, subscribe, Matuska Taxidermy Supply Company, and all of our previously recorded live videos, all the way back from, I don't know, we've got over 100, I know of that, on there. They are all in the playlist Facebook Live videos, and you can watch them on repeat all day if you want, even fall asleep and they'll still keep playing. Like on Netflix.
We're gonna have people go through withdrawal, because there's a lot of people that,
You know, we've talked a lot about taking a break too, and some of the pros and cons, and we know there are a lot of people that watch us religiously every Thursday, and we're not doing that to let anybody down, but we are doing it to regroup, to get some feedback put together, some really impactful and exciting videos. We've got some great ideas and suggestions that we've gone back and gotten from our customers and our watchers, so we really look forward to bringing you an exciting season, we'll call it.
kind of like
Coming
TV people do.
Kind of is. Maybe we'll have to do reruns.
Yeah. John Pesla says that it's a nice trick using the threaded rod to make sure there won't be any separation afterwards.
It is. If you can break it, I think I've done it or been a part of doing it. We've broken sheep heads, grizzly arms, fish heads. So most of our stuff is over-engineered, and we don't have that problem so much anymore. I hope.
This stuff never works for live. I'll probably get this done and it'll fall off. Could you hold that cup for just a second?
So you're putting some in both
I'm
on
trying.
the rod,
Yeah,
in the hole,
I did.
and you've
No, it's-
also got the contact point too.
Now it's gonna ooze, and I'm gonna let it ooze. If it falls out on the side of the fish, it'll chip right off.
Yep. Most of our viewers that use Bondo every day or auto body putty in the shop will be familiar with that, but those that haven't, there may be some that's oozing out there, and there's a point in time when this Bondo kicks that it very easily breaks. We can pick it off very, very easily. It'll be rubbery, and right at that gel point, you can make that connection nice.
Now
and
you just, when you do this, you wanna hold it until it's past that gel point. Sometimes we have rubber tubing that we will fasten this stuff
Yeah.
together, so we can walk away from it, because we're live and you just go right ahead, keep talking. I'll hold this till the end of the show, till the head stays on, but this is how we do it.
And in some instances, you can drill a hole in the top of the head. You could put, and that 10-pound density foam will hold a screw. So you could put a screw there just to help if you're a one-man shop and just trying to hold it and still want to be able to step back. You want to make sure that it's not crooked, so you want to make sure the eyes are level and square to the body. And
Now I just noticed his gill cover was kind of, maybe that one needs to come out a little bit, but I was a little bit off there.
yeah, there it is. Yeah.
All right, and I'm just going to show you real quick how easy it is to use YouTube. So all you'll do is go to youtube.com, search Matuska Taxidermy. It'll go straight to our page. Go ahead and click subscribe right here. It's going to take me to sign in. And then all of our videos, if you are going to be right here, and then we have our playlist somewhere in here. After you subscribe, it should come right up. But it is super user-friendly. You don't have to have a YouTube account to use it. And yep, here is our playlist of all of our Facebook videos. Click in there and they should be in order from the most recent to the not most recent.
We should put out a little description of them that they can click on for information. We get a lot of calls asking about a particular video, and that one that you did the fish on.
Well,
one?
what one?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And after a year,
That largemouth bass mounting was about as long as a bobcat. It went through 75 sessions.
Oh wow.
Okay, why don't you, while I'm holding this, because I'll be holding this for a little bit yet, go ahead and tell them what you do for painting. What would be your process now?
So once the fish is all put together, which the head is on, the next thing we would do, we'd make sure we've got all of our epoxy finishes. We would use Fix It Sculpt is kind of our preference lately.
We've been using a lot of Fix It Sculpt, yeah.
To epoxy sculpt works great. Magic Sculpt, clay, Rick Crane's clay product. We've got that as a new product. That's another great filler, 2-part filler that's made to blend some unions. We'll get all of that done, and then we've got to take this blank canvas, which it may start gray like this. It may start white, but we still will have some differences where the epoxy color doesn't match the resin color, and so we like to prime our fish. Put some kind of a primer or start with to get everything back to an even color, and oftentimes it's white. Sometimes it's nice to use an enamel. We've done that a lot.
A metallic?
Yep. So something that doesn't react with your lacquer-based paints. Something different than your normal base color, just in case you want to buff.
And there's a lot of good videos out there if you ever get really stuck. Ricky Crane has a great set of videos for both reproduction and skin mounts. I think Cole's got a few reproduction, Cole Cruikshank, and they will get you started, really well. I think Lou Winnie might have a couple of.
And I think those are going to be, those will be specific to the species.
Yes.
So if you have a smallmouth bass, I would say odds are you're going to be able to find a pretty good video. I know Ricky's got quite an extensive library of painting videos, but for us, we like to get the base color down and even, and then we're going to tackle how do we make this white piece of plastic start taking on the qualities of a real fish. For us, the easiest way is to get them to look like a dead fish or a skin mount, and that would be kind of the first step. So we would go through and
That's been my rule. If I can make them look like a dead fish, I can make them look like a good mounted fish.
John Hessler says that he must say that you folks really help some of us with these videos. Little tricks that go a long way, like opening up bird feet with air before injecting the 2-part product of your choice. Really, thank you.
wow.
It only took 35 years to learn some of this stuff. Then we to highlight your scale detail. A lot of times we'll take a darker color. Paint the entire fish with a darker color and then steel wool it off. I call it antiquing, I guess. But it'll outline and surround all of your scale pockets, which makes it helpful.
Allows that paint to sit down in the low. When you buff it off, it'll take it off the high spot. And most of your reference, you'll find that the epidermis or the front portion of the scale pocket is darker. Now there are specific examples of fish that would be the opposite, where the dark is on the high and the light is in the low. I think bluegill, smallmouth bass show that's in some portions of their body. But for a general start, that antiquing process works really well. And on a walleye, you've got a nice trick that you've shown them, I think, on live before.
Spraying off the marking.
That works pretty well. What would be next?
And we kind of put a medium, heavy coat, steel wool it off, and then a medium coat of maybe a black green or a black or a Payne's gray, and then just take lacquer thinner in your airbrush, turn the pressure up reasonably high, but turn the volume of lacquer thinner coming out low, get out your reference pictures, and blow the paint off. And we've had really good luck doing that on pike.
Very nice.
Walleyes.
And all of that is just in an effort to build that base, to get us to that real accurate base color. So no matter what it takes to get to your skin tones, if you're using black green or if you're using light green or white or cream or Payne's gray, whatever it takes to get to those undertones, and that's kind of the first step of reproductions for us in the studio, is just to get it to look like, to get all of the markings and natural characteristics of that fish established. And then the next thing I like to do is go to some of those flesh tones.
You're a master of flesh.
Holly says that she loves your haircut, Tom.
It's in now. I wanted to be like Brent Swart.
Yeah.
I thought if I did this, I could work for Pioneer Sequin.
Well, then you'd have to dress different.
I know, he's a fancy dresser, classy dresser.
The next thing we like to do with the flesh tones is to just start establishing a little bit of life, giving some warm tones to areas of the fish that in your reference are going to show some life, some blood flow, and we'll do that. It's often and very common in the lower portions of a largemouth bass, especially a walleye, shows it a lot, perch, but we like to get it under here, just in some of the low. I'll spray it very heavily. Some people have seen that. A lot of people have probably seen it in seminars where you spray it and it almost looks like a
Players of the
kid played with crayons. And we'll paint these flesh tones and fin bases, and sometimes even in the belly on some of those spawning fish that get real heavy. It's nice to put some warm tones. So,
Do you want to hold that fish all day or should we take me?
I think if we gave it just a little twist, it would.
That's the trouble with Ready Rod, and it scares me with customers. I tighten them down, but somebody's going to say, oh, I like him head up, and then they're going to put him head down, and it's going to loosen up. We use lock washers and things.
Yeah.
That won't happen with a wire attachment like this. Now, my wire is nice and secure in here, not to get away from your painting. Nice and secure. I am, at some point, ready to chip out that little bit of foam, fill up that void, and we like to texture it like scales, and we like to make the backs look kind of nice. Yeah. But look at how nice, I'm not ready to put any pressure on it, but look how nice that seam of the head fit.
That's nice. That's really nice.
That's going to be a 2-minute blend right there or less. Now this fish had a couple scales missing right here, one right there. That would be a fix-it sculpt,
Yeah.
a little bitty, and then be careful. I always say when you try to fix things like that, most people over texture.
All right, and it looks like we do have a few people who are commenting in regarding of ideas for our Facebook Live, so that's awesome. Keep them coming. If you or anybody you know is interested in learning more about taxidermy, we do offer our 9-week residential and advanced course that is coming up in January. So if you have any questions or want any info, please give us your name, email, and address, and we will gladly give you more information about that.
Good idea.
Yes. Do we know what we're gonna give away for our final giveaway of the?
We do.
Yes, we do.
So we are giving away Fix It Sculpt, and our 2 winners, whoever chimes in first, we have Nathan Wheeler or Ann Helms. If either of you are live right now, please comment in.
Fix It Sculpt is an Aves product. Dave Brummel's brainchild, and mix A and B together, equal parts, just like epoxy sculpt or epoxy clay or any of Aves fine products. And we use water with our hands. You can use safety solvent is another product. Some people use alcohol, and it feathers out very nice, and it's I think Dave tells us it's stronger than epoxy sculpt, correct?
Yeah. Yep. Described as the epoxy sculpt is the Ford of the epoxy world. This is the Ferrari. And I really like it. One of the nice things about it is it dries to a matte finish. It doesn't shine like epoxy sculpt. So it's a lighter color. It's not that gray. You don't have to overcome such quite a contrast.
Somebody's gonna win a Ferrari.
That's right.
Now we would finish this whole fish. Now blend all our repairs, do all our repairs, set the eyes, like you said earlier, we prefer to paint the fins separate.
Yep.
Then, when you attach these fins, the fish can be painted.
Oh,
The fins
absolutely.
can be painted already, and you attach them
Yeah.
with, you can do super glue, or you can use your, what's your new favorite thing, 1 minute epoxy?
Yeah, 30-second
30-second epoxy.
Fast.
And then all you have to fix is that little hairline that you repaired. So you're gonna have a little, depends on what epoxy you use, and you can even color it. You're gonna use a little hairline epoxy there, a little hairline there, and around there.
Yeah.
And you will have to blend those,
Yeah.
but this is done, that's done, eyes are in.
You can do all your pre-fitting before they're connected. So if you have any little spaces that you need to fill, if there's a gap, you can rebuild those gaps first, and so that they're not quite so intrusive to overcome later on.
And we had a question about who mounted the bobcat on the cover of our catalog, and it was one of our graduates, Chris Harmon from
Yes, Chris
Nebraska.
Harmon did a nice job on that.
That
Yes.
was done in the advanced class, wasn't
Yes,
it?
it was. Yeah.
And we have a question regarding a video on painting turkey heads. Have we done that? Is that
Yeah,
the
we
previous
have
one?
done it a couple times.
A little bit. We've done some pan pastel
Demonstrations.
Yeah, just demonstrations on small portions. I don't think we covered just specifically
No.
a turkey head from A to Z.
I think in the pan
that's-
pastels we showed it,
Yeah.
and then we did it the other day, I think, a little bit.
I
And-
think if they wanted an extensive one, I think Blake's, the Taxidermy University video is broken down, and I believe there is a good portion on painting, so that's a possibility too.
And Jim, you can find all of those previously recorded videos on our YouTube channel, Matuska Taxidermy Supply Company, under Facebook Live videos.
Now, this is a good example. When we say paint the fins separate from the body, we put a lot more effort, I don't want to say effort, they're more work, a lot more work into a reproduction than we do a skin mount. They're just more work. And if you had your fins attached and you start spraying yellow on your fins, and all of a sudden you got a big halo of yellow on that body and markings that you spent 2 days painting, that makes you very sad. And so that's why it's nice to have these painted first, this painted, attach them, do your little blending work, paint the seam, and you don't have any overspray. So that's a good reason that we do that.
And our winner has chimed in. It looks like both of them did, but Anne got to it first, so congratulations, Anne.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Enjoy your Fix-It Skull.
And for everybody who came in a little bit later than the first half of the video, this is our last Facebook Live video until mid-November. I don't think we have an exact date, whatever the...
We'll keep in touch with them.
Yeah, so we will let you know, and we will continue to do our short videos
I
throughout
hear
the
people
week.
crying.
Yes. I think it's in your head.
And you probably hear people cheer.
But like I said, get caught up on all of our previously recorded ones on our YouTube channel, and then we will be coming back with a new and improved Facebook Live with some special
better
guests.
faster,
And
yeah.
And we'll maybe be working on this little fish, and we can show you some clips as we go along in the coming weeks.
All right.
That it?
Well, we will see you guys back on live in a couple months. Thank you all for tuning in.
It's a wrap.
It's a wrap. Season
Thanks for watching,
one.
everybody.
Okay.